This is a video on understanding and participating in the local planning and zoning process. I am Sarah Everhart. I'm a Senior Legal Specialist with the Agriculture Law Education Initiative. The Agriculture Law Education Initiative is a collaboration of the Francis King Carey School of Law at the University of Maryland, Baltimore, the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources at the University of Maryland, and the School of Agriculture and Natural Sciences at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. ALEI is an initiative of the University of Maryland Strategic Partnership, Empowering the State, a collaboration between the University of Maryland, Baltimore and the University of Maryland College Park. This presentation is intended to provide general information and should not be construed as providing legal advice. For advice about how these issues might apply to your individual situation, consult an attorney. Why participate in the local planning and zoning process? Well, a farmer's most valuable asset is often land. Understanding and participating in the local planning and zoning process is an important way to safeguard the value of farmland. A single piece of property in Maryland can have multiple planning and zoning designations. In this video, I will explain the types of designations a piece of Maryland farmland may have and how to participate in the local planning and zoning process. What is zoning? Zoning is a set of regulations that direct growth and development to particular areas for the purpose of protecting the general health, safety, and welfare of a community. Compared to land use planning, which involves a set of goals and objectives of how the community feels it should develop, land use plans designate specific areas for certain kinds of future development. How do you figure out what a property zoning designation is? We'll start with a call or a trip to the local planning and zoning office and ask for the property zoning designation. This will often be found on the official zoning map. Make sure to verify whether the property has a single zoning designation or is split zoned, meaning it has more than one zoning designation. For each zoning designation, a landowner will need to review the jurisdiction zoning ordinance or law to see what is permitted or restricted in that zone. The zoning ordinance may be a section within the jurisdiction's code, or it may be a standalone document. To find it, either search online or ask the local planning and zoning office for help. The information may be found in a table of uses, as shown on this slide. So look at the zoning map, the table of uses, if there is one, the zone description, and any supplementary regulations. A landowner who can't decipher permitted or restricted uses can either consult the zoning staff or individual legal counsel. Acquiring a zoning approval from the local Board of Appeals may be necessary in order to use the property as intended. A Board of Appeals proceeding is a quasi-judicial proceeding. The applicant presents evidence to the board about the potential impact of the intended use, and the public is notified of the hearing. Neighboring property owners may attend and testify in support of or in opposition to the request. Let's run through an example. In this example, the property is zoned agricultural conservation, and the landowner is interested in opening a retail greenhouse on the farm. The landowner looks at the table of uses within the zoning section of the county code to get more information. So here's the table of uses. As you can see, the last use pictured on the bottom there of the slide is greenhouse and plant nursery retail. And if you go over and look at the different columns, the first column is agricultural conservation, and so we see an S there, and if we look over at the key, that stands for special exception. The landowner now knows he or she will need to acquire a special exception from the County Board of Appeals in order to use the property for a retail nursery. The landowner will need to prove to the board that the intended use will meet the special exception criteria. The landowner will also need to look at supplementary zoning regulations in the county code having to do with this use. So in this case, here's some supplementary zoning regulations for greenhouse and plant nursery retail. We can see in the AC zone, there are certain restrictions for the areas of the property devoted to the growing of plants and trees, and then also restrictions having to do with parking and sales structures and where they can be located on the property. So in addition to acquiring the special exception, the retail greenhouse is going to have to also comply with these supplemental regulations. Taking land out of production and converting it to a different use, such as a retail greenhouse, may affect the land's agricultural tax assessment. So consult your attorney about the legal and your accountant about the financial impact of changing land uses. What if the desired use is not permitted in the zone? Changing a zoning designation in Maryland is difficult. Local governments review zoning designations during the comprehensive rezoning process, but that only typically occurs about once every 10 years. Outside of that process, to have a zoning designation changed, a landowner must prove the request meets the change or mistake rule. That means the rezoning has to be consistent with the jurisdiction's comprehensive plan, and it has to be in need of revision due to a change in the neighborhood since the original zoning, or because of a mistake in the original zoning. This is a difficult legal test to meet. How does a landowner go about participating in the zoning process? Well, monitor your local planning commission's agendas. If you see a zoning ordinance rewrite or a comprehensive rezoning, attend the meeting and testify. Also, consider serving on a planning commission or a board of appeals. A comprehensive plan. What is a comprehensive plan? It's a legislatively adopted planning document. Local jurisdictions update their comprehensive plans typically every 10 years, but the process can take many years to complete. All zoning and development actions must be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So folks should not underestimate the value and import of the comprehensive plan itself. A landowner can look at how his or her property and surrounding properties are designated for future growth in the comprehensive plan. So it's a good idea to review the comprehensive plan prior to buying a piece of property. The comprehensive planning process involves many public meetings and opportunities for public participation. So it's another great way to participate in the process. If property is within 1,000 feet of the state's tidal waters or tidal wetlands, it will also have a critical area designation. Development within the critical area is restricted. Most farmland is designated a resource conservation area, but if the property is adjacent to development, it could be designated as a limited development area. So if your property is within 1,000 feet of the state's tidal waters or tidal wetlands, make sure you also understand what the critical area designation for the property is and how the restrictions affect your property. Additionally, in 2012, Maryland passed the Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Preservation Act. This required all local jurisdictions in the state to adopt a growth or septic tier map designating all land within one of 4 tier designations. And that picture there on the right-hand side of the slide shows you the 4 tier designations. The septic tier designations limit future residential development served by septic systems. So if a landowner plans on developing in the future and the property is not served by municipal wastewater treatment, this designation may be important. Understanding a property's planning and zoning designation is a way to appreciate the full potential of land. Planning and zoning is a public process, and landowners should take advantage of the right to attend meetings, give input, and shape how land is designated for current and future development. For more information about planning and zoning in Maryland, check out the Maryland Department of Planning's website. For any questions about planning and zoning or any agricultural law matter, feel free to shoot me an email at the email there on the slide or give me a call. Thank you.